I'm thrilled to have Joel Schwartzberg in the studio today. After I read his book, Get to the Point, Sharpen Your Message and Make Your Words Matter, I reached out to Joel to come to the studio and talk to us. A huge portion of executive presence and being able to command the salary that we deserve is about communicating with impact so that we don't ramble or stammer or show any nervousness while we are making our point clear. Join me today as we discuss the clear formula on how to make our message understood. Securing a big salary should be as easy as asking for more, right? Turns out it's a little bit more than that. First, let me ask you, which of these apply to you? Reading org announcements with envy as other people get promoted? Working long hours with little to show for it? Getting more degrees hoping to be seen? Don't feel bad. I made the same mistake myself without even realizing it. And it's not your fault. In this podcast, I'm going to help you master the strategy and techniques on how to get promoted, how to double your paycheck, and how to secure more flexibility without adding more work or more degrees.
You are listening to Salary Negotiations Made Simple, the show that builds your confidence and inspires you to negotiate for the career you deserve. Do you want to double your salary, secure an ideal career, and increase your confidence to powerfully negotiate every career move? Then you are in exactly the right place.
Hi, Joel. Thank you for joining us today in the studio virtually, but you're here.
Hi, Dorothy. It's my pleasure to be here to talk to your audience.
Yeah, absolutely. Would you mind giving us a brief introduction and getting us started?
Sure. So my name is Joel Schwartzberg, and I'm a presentation coach. And what I generally do is help people elevate their presence by identifying their points, sharpening those points, and learning how to best champion those points so that there's an impact on the audience. The audience thinks something new or does something new to help the world or help your profit or help your goals, those kind of interests. And it's always important to think about the impact, not just what you do. So really, I love, through my books, through my writing, and through my training, helping people achieve the impact that's most important to them.
Absolutely. And we were talking about this. The way I found you was reading your book, Get to the Point. Could you tell us what was the genesis for writing this book?
Sure. Going back, and I promise not to make this long, which is my job, to keep it concise. But going back
this is a test. This
is a test. So in my childhood, I was a competitive public speaker. That was all the way through middle school, high school, and college. And when I finished college, I was a national champion in public speaking. And I thought that was the end of that little pursuit. But what I learned is that what I used in competition, I was able to leverage in interviews and conferences and talking to bosses and direct reports. So I began teaching public speaking. And about halfway into that, and this started around 2006, I realized that I was training good public speakers, eye contact and gestures, how to stand, how to project. But when I asked them, what was your point? What point are you trying to make? They wouldn't have one. Or what they thought was a point was actually not a point. So that's when I really turned the trajectory, because if you don't have a point or know what one is, then you're rendered pointless. And that's why people ramble and have all sorts of challenges. So that's why I wrote the book, Get to the Point. And the only thing my publisher said to me was, it has to be a short book, because if I can't tell you how to make a point concisely, right, then I'm like a dentist with bad teeth. I need to walk the walk and talk the talk.
Yeah.
So that's where that kicked off. And it really opened up a new world, because point makers are people who not just get up in front of a stage and speak to 1,000 people. They are people who go to a meeting with an idea. They are people who need to convince their mother-in-law of something or not. And in all of these scenarios, which includes all of us, we need to know what our point is and how to make it effectively.
Mm-hmm. In the book, you make the concept very clear to say, if you feel like you're rambling, in your mind, say, what is my point? And that will bring you back to really making the point.
Right. Once we establish what a point is, it becomes easier actually to realize when you're getting off the point. And so in the book and in my training, I have a couple of really easy exercises that really help people understand, is this my point? You plop it into the exercise, boom, red light, green light, it's a point. And then you could go on to sharpen it and sell it. But if you don't pass that test, then you have to start again and reimagine it so that it is a point. And the bottom line is, a point is not a theme, not an observation, not a catchphrase, not a category, not a topic. It is a proposition. What do I want you to do? And what is the means by which I think you should do it? And one of the easiest ways to think about it is in this equation. If I do X, Y will result. If I do X, Y will result. My point is, I propose we do X to get to Y result. Now you need both the X, the means to get to that impact, and the Y, the impact. So I believe if people elevate their public speaking ability, they will have better success at job interviews and get better jobs. The X is the public speaking ability. The Y is to get jobs. Now, if you're selling Coca-Cola, I believe that this campaign to reach millennials will help us sell more Coca-Cola. So again, you have an X and you have a Y versus I believe we should sell more Coca-Cola. How? Or I believe we should reach our millennial audience. So what? So you really need both in there to have a complete point.
Mm-hmm. So using that, could we point out, we're going to be using puns, intended or unintended here. How would I say, so I'm a salary negotiation coach.
Right.
Who helps executive women elevate their presence? Is that sufficient or do I need to add anything more?
The first part was a definition, and I'm glad you brought that up because we don't really need definitions. This is like an organization making a proposal to a prospective client and saying, let's start out with 10 minutes on who we are. Where does that fit into the sell? Now, if you say there are unique aspects to what we do that help you achieve this goal. So in your case, Dorothy, you're not just talking about helping women. You're talking about salary negotiation. So I believe that salary negotiation is your X. Now, what is your Y? Helping women, that's a pretty good impact, but it's very broad. Sometimes we use adjectives. I help do something that's great or very good. I call these badjectives. So if I was working with you, I'd say, let's drill down. What is the ultimate, the highest value goal that women in your audience will have through being better salary negotiators? Yes, they'll get the jobs they want. Maybe they'll get better jobs. Maybe they'll increase their income. Maybe they'll have a better quality of life. Maybe they can provide for their family. Maybe all these things, and you want to pick the most important ones. But the more specific you go with both your X and your Y, the more impact it'll have. And one other thing I'd make clear, Dorothy, often we say, if we do X, we will get higher traffic to our website. We'll be able to build more facilities. We'll be able to take in more money. And you know what I learned? I learned that when your Y, your impact, has an impact on real people, living things, even animals, it has a stronger effect than an impact on a non-living thing. So if you say, my work will have an impact on your salary, that's not as strong as saying my impact will enable you to have a better quality of life.
Mm.
And if you have a nonprofit that's reducing income inequality, let's say, you don't want to say the work of this nonprofit is to decrease income inequality. You want to say the goal of this nonprofit through this particular mechanism and campaign is going to help level salaries so that people, living things, so that people get justice in their work and get the kind of income they need to survive and that they deserve.
Wow.
But the key word there is people.
People, yeah.
Always have an impact on living things, not non-living things.
Good. I like that. So if you're a C-level or wanting to be a C-level executive and you're in a job interview, how can you translate that formula?
So it's really the same formula. If I do X, Y will result, but it's a little different. You would say, because of X, Y will result. Because I enjoy being creative, I believe I can contribute many new ideas and advantageous ideas to your program. Because I'm a good writer, I believe I can elevate the writing ability and the impact of your communications to this audience. Because I have a scientific mind and I love science and the scientific method, I really look forward to contributing to your work to develop new ways to help conquer these diseases and these conditions that so many people have.
Mm. Yeah. And you're again talking about the impact as well as remembering it's not just the living thing or the concept of justice, but then translating it to how it impacts people or animals or
Right. And go to that website of that organization you're interviewing for and look up their core values, their mission statement. It should be there. And a good mission statement would have an impact on people. And then use that as your clue. I believe that. And notice I'm often saying, I believe that, because that's a real tool to help you make a point. If you could start with, I believe that, and end it with a complete sentence, you will find you're on your way to making a point. So for example, I believe that my abilities is not a complete sentence. I believe that my contribution to your company is not a complete sentence. It forces you to say, I believe that my creativity or my scientific mind or my public speaking background or having been at so many similar organizations will give me an advantage to be able to contribute, and I love this word, contribute, to contribute to your organization, to your goals, and ultimately to your patients, to your customers.
Yes.
Notice the human part coming in again.
Human part. Yeah. Yeah. So I work in med tech and our goal is always about people's lives and serving patients. So you can always bring that into the equation.
But one might say it's about improving the technology, but really the improving the technology is a means to an ends of helping people. And I was working with a young woman yesterday who was a consultant for a company, and she was talking a lot about herself, what she's able to do. So what we were able to attach to that was the bottom line. And her bottom line was making campaigns more efficient and more effective. And I said, what's the benefit of that? If you make yourself more efficient, more effective, what'll happen? And she said, it'll help them save more money. So we got rid of, or we at least demoted efficient and effective to cost savings. And by the way, what are we able to do with cost savings? We could put more money into R&D. Wow, what's the benefit of that? We can create new products that can really serve our audience and our customers in a great way.
Yeah.
So if you keep asking, what's the benefit of that? What's the benefit of that? That's what I mean by the ultimate impact, especially if it's an impact on people, not just the short range. Because like I said, and it's worth repeating, I see a lot of examples where people say, if we do this right, we'll have more traffic to our website, more money will come in, we'll be able to create more departments, hire more people. But are those things really the ultimate goal? What is your saving lives, or what is your selling more Coca-Cola?
Yeah. Yeah. Now, in the book, you also talk a lot about volume. And the reason I want to talk about this is a lot of our audience may or may not over the time have gotten feedback or the indication that if they speak loudly, they may be perceived as aggressive or too emotional.
Right.
So can you give us your take and how you change our minds in your book and then also in your practice?
Or shrill is a word that's come up
shrill
occasionally. Yeah. Or hate that.
Or hate that. Yeah.
So in my training, I say something just very clear, period, done. And that is that volume is something to be welcomed. Volume is a tool you can use not only for audibility. We often think that, I should be louder so you can hear me. But this is the funny thing about volume. When you are louder, you sound more authoritative, more competent, more credible, more like you know what you're talking about, and more like a leader, more in charge of the area that you're overseeing or the points that you're conveying. So it's so many of these yum-yums. I think it's really important to use that to benefit. And Dorothy, I've been running this part of my workshop for many, many years. And 99% of the people, I'll say, can you just say your name, your job, and the numbers 1 through 5, but say them in a way that's unusually loud, inappropriately loud, weirdly loud, awkwardly loud, not screaming or shouting, but just in a way that's louder than you're used to. And they do. They often go from this, oh, hello, Joel Schwartzberg. I'm a public speaking trainer, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, to this. My name is Joel Schwartzberg. I'm a public speaking trainer, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. When I poll the audience, what was the difference in the impression of that person? Very few people say louder, but what they do say is more assertive, more confident, more competent, more excited, more energetic. And these are all wonderful things. And the number one thing is assertive. And when you want to make a point, assertive is a place of power to assert it. Now, to your specific point, there are people who worry that if they are louder, they will be perceived as aggressive or shrill or something else that's a negative. And we don't want to be aggressive. We don't want to be seen as shrill. Sometimes there's a difference between men and women, and men who are aggressive get a lot more of a pass than women who come across as aggressive. But let's just move away from that entirely. Let's just say that aggressive is not a good impression. I do not believe that women who raise their volume are perceived as aggressive. And I do not think that women who raise their volume should be fearful of coming across as or making an impression of being aggressive. Sometimes there are people in your audience who will think that, but it's a sexist thought. And we shouldn't be customizing ourselves or lowering our impact for the benefit of people who have that kind of ridiculous and offensive bias. What I always say is that everybody needs to speak up, even if those in your audience occasionally need to grow up. So when we speak clearly, and I'm not just saying this out of instinct, it's because the reaction I get from doing this for over 15 years, and someone raises their volume as I just did, or as I could have you do, the words that would come back, aggressive would not come back. This is the other people in the room, the other clients or the students. Only the good things come up. You sounded more assertive, you sounded more confident, you sounded more competent.
Mm-hmm. That is so important to note, because I think we customize ourselves to the minority view because that's what resonates the most, saying, I don't want to come across as shrill, and then we customize, except we need to think about the 98% who thought we were assertive and we thought we came up with executive presence.
And sometimes people say, Joel, isn't it really a conversation? Don't we want to be casual? Isn't there a good thing to being casual? And there is a good thing to making a connection to someone. So you want to be human, you want to be authentic, you want to use your own language. But at the end of the day, whether you're interviewing for a job, arguing for a higher salary, or speaking to 100,000 of your clients and teams, you are making a point. And if you want to make a point, it requires power. It requires volume. I'll often say to my CEO clients who are giving a 20-minute keynote, if you're not exhausted at the end of that keynote, you probably haven't given it enough energy. So I'm not talking about anger or something emotion. I'm talking about intensity and confidence and a real passion for having an impact on an audience.
Yeah, there is a huge fear of public speaking, right? And you address that in the book. There's a huge fear of failure or public humiliation. So what is the mindset that you have to go in when you're speaking?
You nailed it, Dorothy, because there's really not a fear of public speaking. It's a fear of embarrassment. It's a fear of, am I going to make a fool of myself right now and get all red-faced and think about it for the next week? That could happen in a number of ways, but it often happens in public speaking because we're not all singers and fashion models and comedians and magicians. Often the way, if we're ever going to speak in front of people, it's public speaking. So that just happens to be the venue where our shame comes to contact. Mm-hmm. Now, the ways I help people overcome that fear, I think there are 5 big ways. There are some ways that you'll Google and you'll find that I don't find effective at all. One that always comes to mind is imagine the audience in their underwear. I never found that effective.
That's never worked for me. It's opposite, actually.
It's weird. And why would that make you more confident? Another one is visualize your success. And for people who do maybe meditation, that may work. I've never found that sort of works for me. Okay, I visualize it, then I'm up there, and now I'm nervous.
Now I'm nervous. Yes.
So all that visualization did good. One of the things is practice. And by practice, I mean working out this and this, your mind and your mouth. So if you practice like this, all right, so this one I'm 10%, and I'm going to do that, and a new campaign, and millennials. That's only practicing this. So effective practice is out loud and in real time. You don't need a camera. You should not use a mirror. People often think they should, but when we look at a mirror, what do?
Yeah.
That's all we.
Oh, that extra.
Yeah, exactly. We can't get that out of our head, that training, lifetime of training. Don't use mirrors. Just say it out loud while you're walking, while you're sitting quietly, while you're in bed, put the phone down, bring up your notes and practice it. One is practice. The other is this voice in your head, and some people in your audience may hear it from time to time. Let's give it a name. I often call it Roy because I don't come across a lot of Roys. Roy is the spokesperson for what I call the Department of Homeland Insecurity. It's an organ in your body, and the organ in your body, the goal of that organ is to make you more insecure. And if Roy can make you nervous through these thoughts, such as, this is not going well, you're boring them, it's not interesting, you just screwed up there, you messed up that word, they think you're not good at what you do, Roy is hitting you with all these things to sabotage you, really. And if Roy is really strong, he not only invades your head, he invades your mouth. We've all heard presentations where people start with, all right, I didn't get some time really to practice this, but here it goes. Or I'm really nervous about this, so I hope you don't hold that against me, but that's not them, that's Roy winning. We really want to divorce Roy from our mindset and put him in his place, not listen to that voice at all. And yeah, that's the voice that told you look both ways before you cross and don't eat that, but eat this. It serves you well. But here, it's definitely a voice that's going to increase your insecurity, not bring it down or de-elevate it. So get rid of Roy. Make sure to practice. Know your point, because if you don't have a point, you should be nervous because you don't know what you want your audience to do and how to do it. You only know some themes, and that's why you ramble. You're talking around this idea of medical care, but you're not deciding what you want your audience to take away. So that should make you nervous. The final thing, and I encourage your audience to Google this because it's true, is telling yourself, I'm excited, I'm excited, I'm excited. Even if you're not. The thing is, and I'm going to get this wrong, I've had some neurologist clients who've explained it to me, it just didn't stick. But basically in your brain, the part of your brain that thinks I'm nervous is so close to the part of your brain that thinks I'm excited that you can literally toggle from one to the other merely by telling yourself, I'm excited, I'm excited, I'm excited. And not literally, just say out loud or even in your head, I'm excited, I'm excited, I'm excited. You will then, right before your presentation, you will then give a presentation or a job interview or a salary negotiation in a way that's excited. Because ultimately, you want to show the person on the other side of the table or the screen that you're excited about this opportunity. And here's how we can make this happen through a salary negotiation. We know this works because if you tell yourself, I'm nervous, I'm nervous, I'm nervous, you will sound nervous. So the opposite must be true.
Yeah.
So these are ways I ask people to counter their nervousness, especially if there's a voice in their head that says, this is not going well. You don't have a reason to be confident about this. You just got to get rid of that voice.
Yeah. I want to clarify a point, one of the points that you made. You said when Roy is winning, the infamous Roy, you tend to say, oh, oops, I didn't practice, so I'm going to. So do you mean literally like when we apologize before we say something, it's Roy winning, so we shouldn't apologize or we should let Roy take a back seat? Could you explain that point a little bit more?
Yeah, I'll make this really clear. Never apologize in a presentation. You are giving your audience a gift. Do you apologize when you give a gift if the wrapping is a little torn? If the ribbon doesn't match the wrapping paper? No, because we're in the gift giving business, we are delivering a point of value that can enhance their lives and their abilities. So you never have anything to apologize for. And in the end, at the end of the day, your job is not to be perfect. This is, I think, why I apologize. I've worked with a CEO who said, I said, you did a terrific job. And he said, yeah, but I bumbled that word. And I said, they're not giving medals for perfection. When someone goes to negotiate their salary, the other person's not going to say, I'm not going to give you the salary, but here's a certificate for giving such a great presentation.
Yes.
It doesn't happen. So we shouldn't make that our goal. Our goal is to deliver our point, because if someone remembers you, Dorothy, and says, what made you like Dorothy so much? Dorothy, she was interesting. She was fascinating. She was so smart. She was funny. She had a good looking office behind her. Yeah, but what idea did she share with you that helps you become a better salary negotiator? Forget that. But Dorothy was great. She was so good. That might get you more public speaking gigs, Dorothy. We might put you on a stage somewhere, but that's not going to help you with your true goal of helping more people with their salary negotiations. That's why I always say the goal is not perfection, having a perfect image or getting a medal for being a perfect public speaker. It's merely about this job. You're like a bicycle delivery person. You just have to know your point and deliver it. If you deliver it, even if imperfectly, even if you make a bobble, even if Roy is saying they're not listening to you, that was a mistake, you should think about apologizing now because you made a mistake. That's why we need to remove Roy and just keep going. Now, even if you do make a mistake, let's say you say 20% instead of 10%. I counsel people not to say, all right, so it's 10%. Oh, I'm sorry. I meant 20%. I counsel people just to correct. So this went up 10%. Actually, correction, 20%. Because again, what happens when you apologize is it's slightly to moderately destructive to your presence and to your credibility. Now, instead of presenting a point to you, I'm sorry for something I did. I did something bad, and I'm drawing your attention to it. You see how that sort of pushes you back?
Yeah.
It's the same way when I counsel people on how to stand and give presentations. You never want to step backwards because you're retreating. And I think an apology works the same way.
So you say correction and then move on, but you don't
I'd say correction.
Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't say sorry for a sneeze. I don't say sorry for a correction. If you kick someone in the face by accident, then you could say,
you might have to say
I'm
that.
sorry.
Yeah. Okay. We talked about purpose right before we got on the recording. It seems that any of the points we're making, if you keep your purpose in mind, that in general parlance we use, that might help you get over this perfectionism or all this other Roy business.
Because your purpose is different from you. You're not selling this. You're selling your point or your purpose. When you're interviewing for a job or negotiating for a salary, what is your purpose? My purpose is to get the salary I deserve. Not even a higher salary, but the salary that I deserve and is connected to my talent and my contribution. So that's will enable you to drill into what you're there to do and that you can focus on that. But some place where people mess it up all the time is when they introduce themselves. Whether it's at a job interview or a meeting, we've all been at meetings, and someone says, let's go around the room, everyone introduce yourself. It's an hour meeting, and then 25 minutes later, the 10 people introduce themselves. We know what their favorite movie is, we know about their puppetry collection, we know whether they think Pluto is a planet or not, all these things, because they didn't know when to stop, because all we said is tell us about yourself. When next time you hear tell us about yourself, or it's your job to introduce yourself, only two things matter: your name and your purpose. No, it's not included your title. No, it's not included how long you've been at the company. Now, if they ask for that specifically, you should contribute that. But name and purpose sounds like this. My name is Joel Schwartzberg, and what I do is elevate people's ability to know their point, sharpen their point, and champion their point. Jim? So name and purpose, and it enables you to be very crisp and very concise. And that has a number of yum-yums. One, it makes you seem like you're very on top of not only who you are, but what you do and your role there. When we say introduce yourself, it's always going to be in the context of a meeting, of an interview. At a party, it might be different. But in a professional environment, which is what we're talking about, you definitely have a purpose. Know it and be able to say it cleanly. So you're communicating your ability to not only know what your purpose is, but to communicate that purpose and help the meeting. Nobody wants it to go long. And the people who are able to be concise are definitely thought of as better, I would assume and suggest, than the people who rambled on and on about how many cats they have, where they were born, and their favorite food place.
Yeah, I love it. So let's do one for a executive who's presenting themselves in front of a interview panel. How would you say what would you say their purpose was? Like if you could do a fill in the blank sentence that they could plug in play.
My name is blah, blah. If it hasn't already been established, if you establish your name and someone says, tell us about yourself. And I wrote a whole Harvard Business Review article about this that I'll share with you later so you can share with your audience. But basically using your purpose, you would say, I help people do X. I bring X to an industry so it can do more Y. I try to avoid because that's definitional, and that's only in the world of me. That's not in the world of you. So what you want to do is use words like I contribute, I deliver, I help, I assist. I bring is a really good word. Tell us about yourself. Through my experience and the skills I have through my long career in this, what I do and what I love to do is bring X to companies so that they can achieve Y. Mm-hmm. And by the way, when I said I love to do, I often forget about that part, but that is critical. You do it well and you love to do it. And companies eat that up because they don't want someone who can just do it. They want someone who's excited to do it, because we all know if you're excited to do something, you'll do it better. You spend more time doing it. You'll be more committed to it. So don't forget that word. I do this, I do it well, and I love to do it.
That is a strong point, because over many years of doing talent management, you grade people on two things. One is ability and one is desire or passion. Right. And if both are high, then that's a high potential candidate. So if you say, hi, I love, that's that passion. And so you've already scored high on that axis.
And I sometimes say when I do job interviewing training, I say the resume is about your qualification. Your interview is about your desire for the job. Mm-hmm. And you can deliver your desire for the job through storytelling, through evidence, through previous experiences. There are many ways you could do it, but we need to remember that if they have your resume in front of you, the last thing you want to do is reiterate or just regurgitate all those qualifications. They know you're qualified. They would not have brought you in if you were not qualified. Now let's hear why you are interested in the job, why you are excited about the job, and what you can bring to this job that's not already obvious from your resume.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. Thank you so much, Joel. This has been delightful. I have to admit that I was very nervous when you meet your heroes. You're like, what if I ask the wrong question? But I really focused on the book, and I said, I'm going to get to the point and ask the questions that will serve our audience. So thank you so much for sharing so many delightful nuggets. How can people reach you?
People can reach me by going to my website, www.joelschwartzberg, JoelSchwartzberg. Thank you, Mom and Dad. JoelSchwartzberg.net. That's where I keep all of my articles, and they're all free. So you can actually go to my articles and see a skill that you want to improve, and then read everything I have to say about it. I'll tell you, Dorothy, the IT people love when I say this, but I consider my work open code. That is, I want people to access it. We're not in competition with each other when it comes to our public speaking ability, our ability to negotiate salaries, our ability to get jobs. We want to be the most outstanding and most confident people we can be in those settings. And that's what I want to help everyone to be.
Thank you so much for that. Appreciate it. We'll link everything in the show notes. Joel, thank you so much. Have a great day.
Thank you, Dorothy. It's been a pleasure.
Likewise. Take care.
I hope you took away some great nuggets from today's episode. Joel talked about mindset, tactics, and examples to help you leverage your powerful voice so that you can come across as the leader who deserves to command that $200,000 plus salary and compensation package. There you have it, my friends. As you know, I'm on a mission to close the pay gap. Every podcast episode is designed to give you the tools, techniques, and inspiration so you can bravely advocate for yourself. Thank you for listening, and bye for now.